Yeah. So have you guys read my announcement? Right? Announcement about the November the 30th.
Yes.
Yeah, I have something to do, so we'll do online. So Alexis, you do the presentation online, okay? Good. Are you ready? What's your topic, Alexis?
My topic is stress reduction in.
Can you speak loudly? It's a little bit low.
My topic is stress reduction in relationships.
Oh, good. That's nice. So we have 30 minutes for you, right? Okay, and yeah, after that we have another online meeting for the final two. Okay, so that's great then. Let's see here. Oh, Bob, you work on number 7, huh? Luke and Amber. Oh, JC and Lexi, they work on number 5. Huh? So how your meditation, Scarlett?
It's going good. I feel like I finally got to the point where I'm getting pretty used to doing them, and I'm not really noticing that much change from the weeks prior doing them. But I still notice that it's helping a lot in my everyday life and with school and work and stressors, especially with finals coming up.
Oh, so you remember the difference between being and doing? Remember that? What's the difference?
Doing has expectations, while being is just without expectations, without judgment, whatever happens, and it's in the present moment, while doing is usually an anticipation or reflecting on the past.
Emily, remember? What's the difference between doing and being?
Being is just existing without really thinking too much about what you're doing. You're just kind of being, and then doing is doing something with a lot of intent. Like, I don't know, just more judgment on what you're.
Okay. Look, thank you. Look, remember the difference between being and doing?
I do.
Can
Being was
loudly.
kind of.
It's low. Yeah. Can you increase the volume? Thank you.
Just a second. I had it yesterday. I'm trying to remember where or not yesterday, last
It's
week.
okay. Go ahead. It's low. That's okay. But still, we can hear you.
Yeah.
That's okay. Go ahead.
Okay. Kind of doing is, as Scarlett said, it's like setting expectations for something, whereas being is kind of like the golden standard of how we want to approach things. With having like expectations in doing stuff and not actually being, performance kind of, as you were saying when we were in person, it's like hindered and stuff like that, and just being is like the ultimate goal.
Yeah, so important, right? Yeah. So like while you, let's say while you doing your homework, right? So okay, you say I'm doing homework. Is that different? I'm with my homework. Is it different? Yes.
Also, I found the volume thing, by the way, but so actually, like, just doing your homework is kind of like, okay, I'll do it, I'll get it over with. Whereas, like, kind of being like actively present with it is like just being more engaged and actually being with it rather than just doing it.
Yeah, what you say, we're in tune, right? We're in tune.
Yeah, being more engaged, yes.
Engaged, more in tune with the homework, with your girlfriend's boyfriend, with your test, whatever you're doing. All right, so let's go back then. Okay, Emily, you're the first one. Go ahead, Emily.
Okay, so First question was articulate how legal professionals can integrate mindfulness practice into law practice, such as listening, negotiation, meditation, and litigation. And I said, mindfulness meditation has been integrated into law practice through workshops, 4-credit courses, educational programs, and various other experiences that teach mindfulness. In law, mindfulness has been promoted with the intention of developing present awareness, enhancing the ability to overcome stress, concentrate, and remain more energized throughout the day. It also encourages lawyers and students to think more creatively and apply new perspectives to their work. And subsequently, a legal professional can be more thorough with their clients and feel an increased sense of understanding toward them. Legal professionals could listen to clients more carefully because they would be focusing primarily on the client. Negotiations and mediation would be influenced by this as well, and they would be significantly improved by the emotional intelligence and social skills taught by meditation. Litigation would also become a much smoother process. Decision-making is less stressful when there is a clear focus on the issue being addressed. So ultimately, the job of a legal professional is much easier when they can clearly communicate and understand their clients.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I messed up with the number here. It's supposed to be 4, 5, 6, 7, right? I put 4, 5, 4, 5, right? Yeah,
Oh.
with that, yeah. All right. So have you guys been in court before? In the courthouse before? No? Wow. Oh, probably when you get older, right? You may encounter it's pretty intense. Yeah. So have you ever, or your family, your parents, hire any lawyer for anything happened before? No? Oh, that's good then. Scarlett, no? Oh, wow, that's good. So we don't involve with Lori, George, and so forth. Yeah, I remember one time I attend one of my friends at the courthouse. It's very intense. And when even the participation, even the outsiders could have that kind of feeling. It's so intense that when your words change everything upside down. Not easy though. So being a lawyer, it's very stressful. If you win that way, if you lose the case, right? If you lost the case, so you may not have clients to hire you. Okay, anyway, thank you. Thank you, Emily. Oh, our Scarlett, number 2, please. Yeah.
Number 2 asks, expound how mindfulness practice can serve as a coping mechanism for inevitable stressors of legal practice in law school. So I said, mindfulness encourages lawyers and law students to become more self-aware and self-reflective. Legal professionals often focus on their professional expertise at the cost of their mental health and their personal growth, but mindfulness allows them to remain open-minded and curious about themselves and the world. And this self-awareness is essential for effectively navigating a profession marked by the rapid change, the uncertainty, and the ethical responsibilities of the job. Legal professionals frequently find themselves getting in their heads, thinking about the past, thinking about the future. Mindfulness practice allows them to be more present in the current moment, ensuring that they don't miss critical details in a meeting or make the wrong move or make a mistake. And being present also strengthens their personal relationships and allows them to enjoy fulfilling the moment in the practice. And then also going to legal education it often nurtures a judgmental mindset where everything is analyzed and criticized, but mindfulness practice promotes curiosity, compassion, and discernment without judgment. And the shift in mindset can lead to more positive and a less self-critical attitude and environment. And mindfulness trained individuals generally experience higher perceived quality of life, having lower temperament and anxiety in stressful situations, which legal professionals will find themselves in daily. And mindfulness trained individuals demonstrate better emotion regulation and the ability to manage their emotions in alignment with their personal goals in specific situations. So for a legal professional, this is crucial so that they don't express their emotions while on a case and do something that they might later regret.
Okay. So let's say just imagine you were a lawyer, right? So you represent your clients, you defend for your clients, whether it's in civil case or in criminal case. But if you know that your clients is at fault, so how could you remain neutral? How could you remain open-minded without expectation that you win the case, so that your clients can walk out freely? How?
I would view the situation with non-judgment, no prior judgments, no prior expectations. Go into it with a very open mind and try to not express those emotions that might alter the situation and show which side you might be leaning towards. It's important to be unbiased, and I think mindfulness allows you to go into that with that open mind, free from all prior expectations.
Remember, whether in the civil case or in the criminal case, right? Your client is looking for a good lawyer, the one that defends their case, so that they can work out freely, or they can get away from the law and so forth. So that's why they pay you more. But if you just remain neutral, and if you lost the case, probably all the clients, future clients, they would not fire you anymore. So how could you remain neutral when you defend your clients in that situation then? How? It's not easy, right? In real life case, it's not easy. You guys watch former President Trump civil case? Now, no, you don't watch this, you don't follow it, and you can look at how the lawyers defense for him, right? But somehow, even if you cross it, if you were the lawyer, but if you cross the red line, you may be in trouble too. All right, so thank you. Yeah, go ahead, Jesse, and Jesse or Lexi, who would like to start first?
I'll go ahead and go if that's okay, Lexi. So question number 5 was, oh gosh, I lost my tab. Sorry, I'm working on like 3 projects right now. I have like 12 tabs open. All right, number 5 is explain how trauma-informed mindfulness programs bring positive change for women in prison. I thought it was interesting they decided to focus on solely women. I think it's because a lot of these studies do focus on women, like women in prison, because I feel like they tend to be more open-minded to this kind of thing than men, just like generally speaking. But one of the most prominent studies on the impact of mindfulness on those in correctional facilities was Yoga Hope's trauma-informed mind-body program, which cultivated mindfulness into women's prison to help it was only women in the study, to help women recover, feel empowered, and develop healthy coping skills through a variety of mindfulness techniques that we've talked about throughout the course, like yoga, meditation, non-judgmental self-reflection. And the study showed that specifically that it led to a dramatic decrease in symptoms of post-traumatic stress disorder, depression, anxiety, stuff like that. Another study focused on the impact of mindfulness on incarcerated women. It was the Art of Yoga Project, which was another trauma-informed program specifically tailored to adolescent girls in custody. And it sought to improve their mindset through the incorporation of art, yoga, journaling, and other mindful practices. And the program was found to improve the girls' self-awareness, self-control, psychological resilience, as well as increase their probability of success upon release, which means they were much less likely to reoffend and end up where they started, back in prison, or I guess this was adolescent girls, so back in juvie. Another article discusses Wyoming pathways from prison classes that were taught to women in prison, and these classes allowed women in prison to improve their classroom skills, for one, such as public speaking, reading, writing, stuff like that, as well as build upon themselves as individuals through the mindfulness teachings and self-reflective writing and communication among peers. Another article referenced the development of a university-based prison theater program established in a women's prison in Brazil through the University of Michigan, the Universidade Federal do Rio de Janeiro. Oh God, please forgive me. And the Universidade de Estado de Santa Catarina. And the theater gave what the theater did and what its goal was to give these women a sense of empowerment and community, and allowed many of these women to feel as if they were a part of something other than themselves for probably the first time since they were incarcerated, which in turn led to increased self-esteem and communication skills, which are vital, especially if they want to be able to be reintegrated into society after their sentence is complete. Similar results were found in Oakdale Prison when a choir was constructed of incarcerated women. It had the same effect. It gave them a bit of a purpose, a job to do. It gave them something to look forward to every day. So mindfulness, as well as the arts, surprisingly, can play an important role in improving the lives of incarcerated people, as well as the community as a whole, because I feel like we need to really look into our correctional systems, because a lot of them are about punishing instead of helping these people recover. Of course, there are some crimes that you don't really deserve a second chance, but a lot of them, you definitely should be able to eventually be reintegrated into society. And a lot of other countries, that's what their prisons are. They're like more like rehabilitation centers, and the people in prison have jobs and they have like a private room. So the way we view prison is a lot different than the way that people around the world view prison. And I just thought that was pretty fascinating. And of course, these people being reintegrated into society more successfully, it leads to less crime and then fewer people in prison together. And now the people that aren't in prison are able to contribute to the community and the economy. And it leads to a happier and healthier economy and society overall. I feel like there was something else I wanted to say. Where is it? So these mindfulness programs have been proven to improve the mindset of men and women who are currently in prison, as well as those who have been released, by improving their ability to reintegrate into society, as well as decrease the risk that they will end up reoffending in the future. There we go. I think that's all I have to say. I look through. Yeah.
I guess you have
Mhm.
one or two questions. One is that, what you think that women is more open-minded in terms of mindfulness practice than men? Why?
Just from what I've experienced personally, I feel like there are more I'm not sure how it is in prison, but I would assume it'd be the same as outside of prison. I feel like women are more inclined to try out meditation and mindfulness practices than men are. Like, just the response I get when I tell people I'm in a mindfulness and meditation course the women are usually like, oh, that sounds really interesting. Like, what do you do? And the men kind of laugh and they're like, oh, that's funny. Of course, that's not the truth for everyone. But just generally from what I've gathered, just in my personal experience, I feel like women tend to be more open-minded towards these kinds of practices. And maybe that's why a lot of the studies in the articles focused in women's prisons. But I wasn't quite sure. I was just speculating a little bit.
Anyone knows why? Yeah, probably the female is more sensitive than men, right? Look. Anyway, so the other question is that you know, nowadays, let's say if you want to apply for a job, right, in the application, most of the time there's a section that you need to check up whether you have criminal history or not. Right, most of the time, right? So how could those criminals, one that got out of the jail, to be integrated into the society if they check that? And of course, most of them would not accept them into the business or company. How could they deal with that?
Well, of course, you have to start somewhere. And if that's like, I think one of the gentlemen in the video for the discussion worked in like a warehouse for a very long time. Like I know Amazon, I believe, hires people with a criminal background. I know a lot of like restaurants because I've worked in a couple restaurants. Almost all of the line cooks had felonies, to put it bluntly. And they can make some mean food. I don't know if they learned that in prison, but they can make some mean food in there. So you definitely have to start somewhere. And I think the farther away you get from that, from your past, the easier it's going to be to get maybe a different job. But I think a way to cope with that is you really just have to be non-judgmental and patient with yourself. That goes for like all walks of life, I'm sure, but in that situation specifically, you need to be patient and non-judgmental and move on, and I guess find a way to move on from that past and just rebuild yourself from the ground up.
Thank you. It's not easy.
Oh, I'm sure it's not.
When people have that kind of bad record, right? Right. Thank you, Lexis. Next one, please.
All right. So what I really focused on was the integration of arts programs in prison and how it really benefited people who had been deprived from interaction and connection while they were in prison. And it helped them feel like they mattered whenever they had been told so often that they did not matter. And it helped them find a better sense of self so that they could build off of this new group of people that they found through participating in these activities, and also being able to build off of these skills instead of the other skills that they had learned that kind of got them in the situation where they were at. So it also showed that positive achievements are linked with these arts programs and helped them build an identity that was based off of positive achievements instead of the negative ones, and gave them a second chance for them to be able to reinvent themselves in a way that could help them move forward from their bad decisions and be more confident in their ability to be a good person. And it also gave these people something to focus on instead of the reason that they were there. So instead of dwelling on the past or thinking about what could happen in the future, they were able to focus on a art project that they were doing, or if they were participating in a play or they were doing yoga, they were able to focus themselves on the present and then build off of that from there. It also helped them build new strengths that could help them later on in life, and gave them a program where they were not reminded of the bad things that they had done in the past, and gave them a chance to connect with other people who had the same interests as them and be able to be mindful with this new group of people that they got to connect with. It also helped them to be able to focus their energy and emotions on being able to use all of that in a healthy way, instead of like if they had like pent up anger or some frustration or sadness from like the situation that they're in, they were able to express it in a healthy way and express their wants and needs and be able to help them figure out their emotions and just more find themselves in a different light. So it showed at the end that these new skills could give them a sense of purpose, as well as giving them a new goal to try to work towards and something new to focus on. And it gave them new relationships and a sense of purpose. And a task of being able to complete something like a painting could give them a social network of other people who also like to paint, or give them structure to their day when, if they didn't have this, they may just be sitting around all day, not really doing anything, not interacting with other people, and just dwelling on the past.
So one more time, let's say if they got out the jail and somehow they have nowhere to go except going back to their old communities, right? Or groups. That may be criminal one or drug dealers one and so forth. So how could they move on without any support besides those type of bad support from those groups, the criminal groups? How?
I feel like since they're learning these new skills and forming these new connections with people based off of the hobbies that they're creating for themselves, it could give them a new group of people to seek out. And they could seek out other people in the area who, like, if they enjoyed painting, they could join a painting class, or they could go to a yoga class if that's what they were doing. I know for trying to figure out where to go next, personal experience for me, the only experience with like a court that I have had is, it was called Veterans Court, where a lot of our veterans have many issues with like drugs and alcohol, and then could get into some criminal activity, and Veterans Court gives them a second chance to be able to reintegrate into the world, and gives them a place and other people that have been through the same stuff. And I feel like there would be other places like that give them mentors and give them resources to help them be clean and have a place to stay, instead of having to, well, I just got out of jail and now I'm just going to go straight back to what I was doing before.
Not easy, right? We have you, right? Have this determination to get out of the old world, or the drug dealers or the criminal communities, right, or groups. Otherwise, they get back the same routine. Thank you. Luke or Amber, please.
I'll go ahead and start. So for question 7, it says, discuss how mindfulness and arts can play an important role in both the rehabilitation and reintegration of offenders. So a lot of what I was going to say, Lexi covered, whereas as she was saying, arts programs like dancing, poetry, singing, painting, and mindfulness programs help people in general express themselves in a more positive and beneficial manner. So instead of having pent up aggression or any other emotion like sadness or excitement, they can use these programs to better express themselves to others without having to delve into anything that they don't want to talk about. So they can express how they feel from physical or mental trauma and without actually going into the details of that trauma and hurting themselves or hurting another person. And as Lexi had said, most criminal offenders grow up in their childhood or in their community that they were living in before they had went to prison or juvie. And while they are in prison and juvie, they are in an environment where they believe, or they are told, that what they do, that they do not matter, that they're just a criminal, that they will never be anything more than a criminal, that whatever work they will do is not important and no one can use it. They're just worthless. They aren't human, basically. And with these arts and mindfulness programs, they allow offenders to find their own voice in doing these activities or being aware of the present moment. And they can learn how to feel more confident in their work, and they feel they have more value in what they do and within themselves. And many studies have found that these programs increase offenders' self-worth and empowerment, improve their social life and problem-solving skills. So they're better able to communicate with others, and whenever they're faced with a problem, instead of giving into their emotions or reacting to the problem impulsively, they're able to take a step back and think and respond to these situations or these problems more effectively. And these programs also help offenders create an identity for themselves based on the fact that they can make a positive change in their lives, even though they were continuously told over and over that they're worthless and their work doesn't mean anything. These programs help them realize that just because you have this title of offender or criminal, that doesn't necessarily define you, and you still have worth as a human, and your work is just as important as anybody else's work. And through arts and mindfulness programs, offenders can learn new skills, and they are able to express their emotions, both positive and negative emotions, in a creative and beneficial manner. And some of these programs, a lot of the art programs, they present the work that offenders do in like art exhibits or in museums. And this doesn't just only validate the offender and help them feel like their work has value because it's actually being presented somewhere, but it also humanizes them to the public. The public will see that, oh, well, a criminal offender, this person, even though they're in jail, they make beautiful art, or they are really good at poetry. It gives them a new perspective on what criminal offenders are and what they can do. And due to them being humanized through their work, once offenders are released from prison, they are more likely to be welcomed by the public, and they'll be able to more easily find their place in a community or be able to connect with others more easily through the skills they learned or through the work that they did from the arts and mindfulness programs.
Okay. So, some taxpayers may complain that, well, those offenders or criminals, they commit crimes and we have to pay for them to stay in the jail. And according to the statistic, they say that between $20,000 to $100,000 per year for each offenders. That costs that much for taxpayer to pay. So if you advocate for the offenders, how could you defend for that? Amber?
I think, well, since a lot of people are already going into this with the idea of, oh, I have to pay more for people who are in prison, so they're already going to have these negative ideas and like negative thoughts in their head of like, oh, this is your fault that I have to pay extra because you're in jail. I think having to overcome that and be able to just have a conversation with them about how, yes, you have to pay more because they're in jail, but they're learning valuable skills through the programs they're learning, and they may become a better person than who they were when they went in. I think just being sure that you don't talk to like taxpayers or anybody who's upset with that with the expectation of I'm going to prove them wrong, or oh, you shouldn't be upset about this. Just not going in with any expectations and just accepting whatever happens in the conversation you have with them, and just, you know, talking one-on-one without like forcing any ideas or beliefs. I think that's the best way to get them to at least try to understand why these programs are helpful for offenders, even though taxpayers may need to pay extra for that.
Has anyone of you visited any friends or anyone in jail before? No? Wow, okay. You know that for offenders who, I mean, that the one who stay in jail, they may work, but they may earn only $1 or $2 per day. You know that? You know, look, right? How?
Well, I think if like some inmates are on like good standing and stuff, they have the opportunity to either work as like people who serve lunch or people who clean around the facility and stuff like that, and they can earn some money through that.
So like Amber just mentioned, like, let's say they can earn only $1 or $2 per day. You just put them down.
Probably, I'm sure, even though they're being paid for their work, they'll think their work is pointless because they're barely getting anything out of it.
That's the point. That's the point. So if you are their advocate, so how could you help them to live up their spirit? Because only thing they do, or only thing they get is only $1 or $2 per day. So they worthless, like you say. They may have low self-esteem. How?
I think with, at least with like using those mindfulness and arts programs, if they were assigned to do janitorial work around their corrections facility, or if they serve lunch at like the prison cafeteria, I think just being able to accept and, well, first accept that you're frustrated, that even though you are doing work and you're barely getting anything out of it, just accept that you have this frustration and understand that it's okay to feel frustrated from this. But to take these working opportunities as a chance to give you something to do, even though I think either Lexi or Scarlett was, or I mean, Lexi or Jesse was bringing it up, but a lot of these like jobs, they give offenders a chance to do something instead of sit around or hang out with people they shouldn't be hanging out with. It gives them an opportunity to do something more engaging and more productive. So even though it is frustrating that you aren't getting much out from doing that job, I think that accepting that, hey, at least I am doing something, instead of either sitting in my cell or doing or talking with other prisoners or other inmates, it gives them something more productive. They have something to do, which I'm not sure if that would help them that much, but I think with having that kind of mindset, it could help a little bit.
So as much as they have the positive state of mind, right? So they could see in that way, right? As much as they have some job, so they could feel that they're more productive than sit around, right? All right, I think we have more time, right? So let me show you guys a short video clips on whether you've seen before. What you call the Dharma Brothers. Have you seen this one before? Look, No, okay, get watch it. Can it more couple minutes.
Mean that you're to be punished or worked or any of that. It means you're to be warehoused till you die.
6 months all the way up to death row. Yeah, I'm all here. Dalton's a pretty dangerous place. Somebody being stabbed or killed is a common occurrence.
The violence here. This is a breeding.
There we were in Alabama, very Christian part of the country, and we were teaching the teachings of the Buddha.
It's a very regimented day, stricter than your normal prison schedule.
What is that? I don't want to go through that.
I thought, well, we're, gonna waste some time here.
I've been through every course imaginable. A meditation course? Come on.
No one is telling them what to look at or how to change. They're gaining their insights within themselves.
I knew that I had to let things go, and I just let the tears fall. It felt good to cry. It had been quite some time. It hit places in me that I didn't even know was there anymore. And after 16 years of being locked up in here, I wasn't sure there were any places like that.
You're in the Bible Belt, and if you came in and tried to teach against Christianity, it would become a real problem here.
They should have meditated before they done whatever they did to get in there.
People became threatened. These guys are turning inmates into Buddhists, so therefore you need to shut this thing down.
Take responsibility for my actions. Didn't do that for
Fake it till you make it. Is this something they can fake, help them like parole?
They're clearly grappling with feelings of revenge and hatred. It helped me a lot. It humbled me a lot. What's not to understand about compassion, love, and caring?
I got life without parole. I may not never get out of the penitentiary. And this is like a break from everything. This is like freedom.
I am proud of our group. I am so proud to call them my Dharma brothers.
And you see that, so this group of inmates, it's 9 years ago, right? Deep South, the conservative one down there. So they do this kind of practice. Yeah. So look how you feel, how you think about that group.
I can't hear you very well.
You cannot
Can you
hear?
say that again?
I mean that how you think about those group.
There, you're good now. So that definitely seemed like more of like a maximum security prison, to where definitely people who are in there committed more like serious crimes. Because as they did say, the schedule there is definitely more strict. I saw people, they were actually like in their cells and they had to be unhandcuffed in there, which is a feature of like more maximum security prisons for people who commit like felony crimes with like a 5-year minimum sentence and stuff like that. And kind of with that and like the implications of meditation and stuff, I definitely think that, kind of what the inmates are thinking. They're like, oh, I'm in this maximum security prison. I don't have like, anything else to do with the rest of my life. So why don't I give this meditation thing a try? And kind of how they were talking about how, oh, the jail is teaching something other than Christianity. Because from what I listened to, the country or the state or wherever that prison was located, the area surrounding it must have been like very Christian based. And just kind of like the stressors of the jail teaching things that aren't related to Christianity, like the protests of the guy outside and stuff like that. And yeah.
It's not easy, right? For the one that commit serious crimes, right? They lock up in the jail. Just imagine that more than a decade, right? You won't have that kind of freedom. But if they know how to handle their mind, they have their own freedom within themselves, right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Go ahead. Look, you can follow. That the last one. Go ahead.
Oh yeah. So kind of my response was also tailored towards like mindfulness and arts and how that plays an important role in rehabilitation and reintegration. So I found that the arts have like a profound impact on human experience through different forms of like being able to heal one's well-being. Specifically, I found also that mental health among people who are currently imprisoned or those that have been previously imprisoned is like almost twice as worse, specifically when it comes to low self-esteem. And how like mindfulness and art practices kind of play into that is that they, like music and poetry and drama and stuff like that, they have resulted in like a decrease in anxiety, and they allow incarcerated people to restore their emotional balance. And as a result of that, it allows the quality of life and the different health outcomes that they have to be improved significantly. And one of the programs that I was most interested in when I was reading the article was a lady named Mary Cohen and the choir that she offers for both inmates and community members. And what the program has is they have weekly rehearsals in which the inmates and the community members would be able to interact with one another. And because of that, the inmates' self-esteem is directly boosted, and it allows them to have a greater understanding of kind of like the outside world when they're incarcerated. And then I found that there was a strong argument for like kind of rituals such as singing, and it also allowed for a positive reintegration of whenever the prisoners did get released and eventually were allowed to go back into the general community. And because of that, their problem-solving skills, their self-worth had both increased, along with the fact that they were able to communicate with people better. And it also, in regards to self-worth, it allowed them to kind of form an identity for themselves, and just overall it resulted in a positive impact on their lives.
So yeah, so see that sometimes we think that we're free, right? But most of the time we get stuck here. The prison of our mind, is that right? The prison of our thought. We play around with our thought all the times. We get stuck there. Yeah. So Emily, how you feel when we play around with our what we call rumination, right? We play around with our thought. We get stuck with that. So is that, what do you think? Is that similar as the prison of our mind? Emily?
Definitely.
How? How do we rate the prison of our mind? How?
How do we, like, how does it relate to real prison?
How do we create our own prison of our mind? You understand the question?
No.
Anyone understand the question? The question is that we have a lot of rumination, right? We have a lot of thought. So my question is that how do we create that type of prison, like the one that stay in the jail, right? We keep ourselves in that kind of prison in our mind, in our thought.
I feel like a lot of the times we give ourselves limits that aren't actually there. Like I'm applying to grad school right now, and I find myself like telling myself that I'm like, oh, there's no way I wouldn't be able to handle it. There's no way I'm getting in. I don't deserve to take someone else's spot who like, and you know, like you give yourself these limits and you judge yourself so harshly that a lot of people don't do the things that they want to do because they're scared they're going to fail without even like trying, without even making an attempt. That's
the point. Thank you. Thanks for mentioning that. That's what we call the prison of our mind, right? Like we limit ourselves, right? We corner ourselves. We judge ourselves in a negative way. Oh, I'm so bad. I'm not deserved to accept this gift, and so forth and so forth. That we create a prison of our mind. How serious is that, Amber? How serious is the prison that we create in our mind?
Well, based on my own experiences of being like trapped in my own head, is that it can be so overwhelming of like your thoughts, your emotions of like, oh, I can't do this. Like, oh, like I'm going to fail. I'm too scared. So that fear and that like frustration just gets built up inside yourself, and you just feel so overwhelmed. You get exhausted. And at that point, you just get more angry at yourself, and it's just like this horrible cycle of just being stuck in your own head and with your own emotions, and it's not, and you just don't get anything done, and you just are hurting yourself in the long run by just being stuck in your head.
How about you, Scarlett? So how it affect to the relationship when we have this kind of thought that we imprison ourselves mentally? How it affect our relationship with our friends, our families, our work, co-workers, and so forth? How?
I know, especially for me, when I get into this head space of anxiety, worry, stress, fear, I know even my friends, my family members, they start to get frustrated almost just because they see my potential and they see what I can truly do, but I'm just stuck where I am. And then also, I think what Amber was saying, it can be very frustrating and become very exhausting being stuck. So even this frustration that I create from my anxiety can hinder my relationships in real life, because sometimes I take out my frustrations with myself on other people, and other people might not know why I'm doing that and the mental space that I'm in.
Yeah. How about Lexis? What do you think about that type of prison of the mind? Even we're free, technically, right? How?
One thing that kind of connects a little bit for me is whenever we're trying to like we're in the middle of playing a game, like for volleyball, you get in your head whenever you make a mistake and you think, well, I made a mistake now, I don't want to make a mistake the next time I do this, or maybe I'm not good enough to play this or that. And one thing that I started doing about halfway through the season with myself and then everyone else is because you can see in someone's face whenever they're starting to get in their own head and like think that about themselves, is I would go up to them and talk to them and be like, hey, we're getting inside of our heads right now, and we need to just be. We can't think about what we're trying to achieve, because then we're going to put all of these stipulations and make it a lot more serious than it needs to be. So there's a lot that can happen with mind games that we play with ourselves, or even other people trying to do it to us too. And one way that I pull myself out of there, now that I can like recognize it a lot quicker, is just by thinking, well, I've done this thing before, or I have shown myself that I'm able to do this, so I can just do it again, and I don't really need to think this hard about it.
Yeah, thank you. So look, you seen how could we take down the wall of our own prison mentally?
Yeah, so I especially think that like the prison of our minds relates to low self-esteem, just as how like the prisons in real life. When people think, oh, I'm a prisoner, I've done a bad thing, I'm at this position I am now, they have a lot of low self-esteem and stuff like that. So I think kind of the solutions for the prisons of our own minds are like very similar to those that are actually incarcerated, with that being, you know, just kind of thinking of things more non-judgmentally. That's definitely the primary thing, is not placing any kind of like emotion or like negative emotion onto things and thinking of them positively.
Yeah, that's why without meditation, not easy to break down or to tear down that wall, the wall of our own mental prison. Right, so that's why this class should be helpful for, especially for you to prepare in future. All right, so thank you. Let's finish today. Please remember, okay, the November 30 we have online, okay? Yeah, but we'll see you next Thursday then. Look, can you stay back a bit, okay? All right, thank you, everyone. So see you. Thank you.
Oh,